What's up guys, my name is Stu, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the newly revamped Shi'kahr class. Star Trek Online's summer event is finally here, and with it this year they have brought the Shi'kahr Revamp, which was teased about a month ago. The Shi'kahr is a variant of the Miranda class, so this new Shi'kahr model is being applied to all existing Miranda class ships for free. Here it is, the new Shi'kahr class. It's quite a departure from the old Shi'kahr class, but honestly, I really do think that's a good thing. The old one never really fit the style of really any era in Star Trek Online, but that's true with a lot of ship models that have been around since the game's launch. This new Shi'kahr class is modeled after the Next Generation era, or specifically the early Next Generation era, modeled after a number of the ships that were seen in the Wolf 359 ship graveyard scene, like the Cheyenne and Springfield class ships. This one even includes the highlighter-style warp nacelles that those two classes had. I call them highlighter style because that's literally what those nacelles were made of on those ship models, a bunch of highlighters they had lying around the studio. While the Cheyenne and Springfield class models are kit bashes, the Shi'kahr is a totally original model. So while it is based on the Next Generation era, it's not recycling parts from the Galaxy or any of the other Next Gen era ships. Even the highlighter nacelles don't appear to be copy-pasted from the Cheyenne model, because these seem to be shorter and thicker with a few additional details added, almost like they were trying to bridge the gap between these highlighter nacelles and the ones used on the Galaxy and Nebula class ships, which I think is a really cool detail. The big giveaway that this isn't a ship of recycled parts is the saucer section. The Shi'kahr doesn't have that wide oval-shaped Galaxy saucer that we see throughout the Next Generation. This has been shaped to look a bit more like the original Shi'kahr, so it's a bit more of a long oval than a wide oval, but it still manages to look very much like a Next Generation era ship. While we're looking at this side of the ship, I also want to point out that I really like the teardrop shape of this hull. How it's pretty wide in the front, but then narrows out in the back. It's a nice way of setting it apart from the more blocky look of the Miranda and some of the other variants on the skeleton. Here's a better look at the aft section, where you can see two shuttle bays, the impulse engines beneath it, as well as two additional doors along the side of the hull. These don't appear to be numbered like the shuttle bays do, which makes me think they're probably exterior cargo bay doors. You can also see a little aft torpedo launcher here on the back of the pod. There's one on the front as well. So while this is more of a deflector dish pod on the Shi'kahr, it is also technically still a torpedo pod. And I really like how they handle that on this model. If you look at the Galaxy class, it's only got the two torpedo bays, the one in the front and the one in the back. So why would this smaller, less powerful ship have twice as many torpedo tubes? So instead of making this a big torpedo tube like the Miranda has, they put much more emphasis on the deflector dish and gave it small little torpedo tubes like the Galaxy has. Speaking of the pod, there are some other notable differences between this and the Miranda class, like how the roll bar section isn't technically a full roll bar. The deflector pod is supported by this double neck portion, which then extends out into two pylons that don't even make contact with the saucer section. Which, again, I think is another great way of distinguishing this ship away from the Miranda, but still looking very much like a Miranda variant. I also love that they gave this thing a double neck. They could have just used something inspired by the Cheyenne's hull and made it one big piece, but nope, it's a double hull, and I like that. Gives me some mild Yorktown vibes. Going back to the pylons, they gave them something that you don't normally see on Next Generation era ships, which is some empty space. This is something we've seen from time to time on ships from the newer shows, like the Constitution class from Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds, but not so much on older 90s era Star Trek shows. And while some might think this looks out of place, honestly, I think it actually works in the ship really well, mostly just because of just how thick these pylons are. If they filled in this gap, this would just be one big blank piece, and honestly I think that would look kind of boring. So they would either need to add some kind of detail or just open up like they did here. That way you can see right through it into the rest of the ship. Here's a look at the bottom of the ship. We got a little sensor dome that looks pretty similar to the bridge module, and some more details toward the back. I like this glowing pipe looking thing in this indented area. There's one on the other side too. I don't know what it is, like maybe some sort of exposed EPS conduit or something, but I don't know, I dig the look of it. I also like this little bit over here. These small little asymmetric details really give an impression that the ship is a bit more real. You know, that it's not just some 3D model, like someone actually built it. I do have three very minor gripes about this ship. The first is about these forward shuttle bays. Don't get me wrong, I actually really like the forward shuttle bays. This raised section of the hull was part of the original Shi'kahr's design. I like how they've adapted those into something more functional, in this case a pair of forward shuttle bays. The detail on them is really nice too. If you zoom in, you can see the lights on the ceiling, and the yellow lines on the floor, even the blue glowing emitters for the atmospheric force field. My gripe is that they're always open. I don't really mind that so much, but I would have liked a customization option that included a closed door version. The crossfield came with that kind of customization. You can have it set so it's either open or that it's closed, but for the Shi'kahr, those two doors are always going to be open. Like I said, it's a very small gripe, and even if we did have the option, I would probably still pick the open doors version. But that's just me. I feel like a lot of players would have appreciated a closed-door version as well. I actually have one more gripe about these forward shuttle bays, and that's that they're not labeled. If you look at the shuttle bays on the aft, they're labeled 3 and 4, which to me implies that the forward ones are shuttle bays 1 and 2 for this ship. But there's no number painted on the hull, which makes me think that they're probably painted on the door, which we don't have a customization option for. My other gripe is the size of the escape pods, because they are freaking huge on this ship. I get that this is a small ship, and these windows were originally scaled for the Galaxy class, but, I mean, they're huge. Especially for these ones on the outer edge of the saucer section. With how big these doors are, I would think the escape pods would be too thick for this section of hull. It's mainly these 2 sets of 3 on the far edge that bother me. Like I said, I don't think this section of hull is thick enough to support the escape pods. So I kinda wish they'd do away with those. Actually, looking at it now, I kinda think they should have moved the transporter emitters off the shuttle bays into where those escape pods are, and then put the number identifiers for the shuttle bays where the transporter emitters are. But I guess you'd want to see those numbers when you're flying toward the shuttle bay, so I guess it makes more sense that they would just be painted on the door. Maybe on the back wall of the interior of the shuttle bay as well. So yeah, forget I said that last part, but those escape pods do still kind of bug me. My last gripe really isn't so much a gripe about this ship as it is just about ships in general, and that's the fleet logo. I really wish we could turn these off, because at this point in the game, they really stick out like a sore thumb on these newer ship models. Honestly, the only ship I ever thought the fleet logo actually looks good on is the Yorktown, and I think that's because they actually took the fleet logos in mind when designing the ship. But even then, the old default fleet logos look so old and so bad. If we can't turn them off, can we at least update this image so it doesn't look like crap anymore? Because honestly, they drive me nuts. But yeah, those small gripes aside, I do think this is a really good looking ship. The old Shi'kahr always stuck out like a sore thumb compared to the other ships on the Miranda skeleton, so it's nice to see that they brought its quality up to par with the rest of them. This just also further cements the Miranda class being the king of Space Barbie and Star Trek Online. Because I'm doing this on the Legendary Miranda, and look how many templates I have here. We got the Centaur, the Miranda, the Soyuz, the Shi'kahr, the Reliant, the Malachowski, the Clark, Saratoga, and the Mark I and Mark I Beta versions of the Miranda. That is a lot of templates for one playable ship. And it's a really nice variety of ships too. You'll be able to pick a ship designed from pretty much any era from Star Trek. You got your Mark I Mirandas if you want to go for an original series setup. You got the classic Miranda, the Saratoga, the Soyuz, or the Centaur if you want to go more TMP era. Most of those also spill into the Next Generation era, but if you want something that looks more Next Generation, now we got the new Shi'kahr. There's also the Malachowski for the Discovery era. The Reliant is a Star Trek Online original, but remember, this ship also appeared in Star Trek Picard, so if you want to go for more Picard era, this ship will work for that, and it would also work if you're wanting to stick to something more Star Trek Online themed. There's also the Clark, which is another Stowe era original. All of these which have pieces that can be mixed and matched with each other. Like I said, lots of Space Barbie on this ship. I don't have a lot of vanity shields, but I can at least show you some of the more popular ones and how they look on this ship. The first 3 I have are really the only 3 that actually matter, and they're the ones that make your ship black. The Baul Vanity Shield. I used to put this one on a lot of ships, but these days I always feel like it's kind of hit or miss. It really depends on how these etched-in portions of the hull end up coming out, and honestly I'm not super into it on this ship. I also don't like what it does to the RCS thrusters, though I do like what it does to the transporter emitter. That's kind of cool. Next is the Section 31 shield. This one usually looks pretty good on a lot of ships, and I do like it on this thing too, but there is one thing that bugs me. And not just on this ship, but on most Federation ships. I hate that it blacks out the Bussard collectors. Unless a Federation ship has a unique Bussard collector texture, like the Gagarin, they'll usually look like this. And the last of the Goth shields, the Emperor's Vanity Shield. This one's okay in my opinion. I do like what it does with most of the hull, but I'm not into these weird purple bits. It's not that I don't like the color, it's just the texture looks kind of weird. Next we'll do the Fakiri Vanity Shield. That one's usually hit or miss, and yeah, that one's not great. This one usually does better on certain alien ships, but yeah, I'm not into it on a Fed ship. Oh, that's weird how the lighting on it changes when I open the menu. I actually think it looks better when the menu's open. Anyway, moving on. Next we'll do the Alliance Vanity Shield, and this one I like. The Alliance Shield often looks good on Fed ships, and yeah, this is no exception in my opinion. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say on that. That just looks good in my opinion. Ooh, the Platinum Shield looks pretty good on this too. Platinum usually matches pretty well with Federation ships too. I think it's because it's already so close to their normal hull color, and I'm often fond of the Vanity Shield that adds glowy bits like this. The Pink Vanity Shield is always a crowd pleaser, and that actually looks pretty good on that. I usually think this one is pretty hit or miss, but it definitely hits here. There's a lot of lines on this model that really let this Vanity Shield get to its full potential. The Medical Vanity Shield, I always thought this one was kind of boring, and yeah, it's still boring on this ship. It's very white and it's very red. There's really not much else to say about it. It looks okay on this ship, so I guess if you're a fan of this Vanity shield, it'll look good on this ship, I guess. But yeah, I'm not super into it. And the last one I have is the Terran Task Force Vanity shield. Okay, that's not too bad. I mean, it's not great, but there's some things I like about this. Mainly the dark hull with the light blue lines, I really like that aesthetic. I used to use this Vanity shield to try to hide how ugly the Zentaur is. I always thought this shield was kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't think it works on this ship very well. Before wrapping up, I figured I would also include a wanted patrol showing off this ship in action. This technically isn't a new ship because there are a number of different Mirandas already in the game, but this way you can at least see the Shi'kahr in action. The version I'm using is the Legendary Miranda, which is a temporal multi-mission cruiser and is honestly my favorite version of the Miranda. I usually run a normal beam overload build on this, but I have modified it a bit to make it a little bit more canon-inspired for the TNG era, since the Shi'kahr is a TNG-inspired ship. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this closer look at the revamp of the Shi'kahr. I really do think this is a great looking ship, and I look forward to seeing more of them flying around in the game. What do you guys think of the new revamped Shi'kahr? Do you like the new one, or do you prefer the old one better? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that bell for notifications. I also want to give a big thank you to the members of the channel whose names should be appearing on the screen right about now. I really do appreciate the support that you guys give. If any of you would also like to support the channel further, feel free to hit the join button down below or the super thanks button. Either way, thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.